Welcome to 49ers After Dark. Grant Cohn, Jessie Naylor. Title of the show is What Steve Young Thinks of 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. Steve Young isn't going to be here on the show with us. He'll be here with us in spirit. He is alive, of course, and he is an all-time great quarterback. Shout out to Steve Young. I love his insights. I love Jesse's face. I love his smile. I love his style. I love his moves. Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing really good, Grant. I love you too, man. I love you too.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. We have breaking news. Arik Armstead has a foot injury. Kyle Shanahan would not disclose the extent of it. I guess we'll find out. But Arik Armstead had a foot injury last year that really wiped out most of his year. I guess half of his year. And when he did play, he wasn't particularly effective. This season, he's been extremely effective, especially recently. What do you make of the early news here?
Yeah, it's certainly worrisome because, I mean, we don't know what foot it is, but I'm pretty sure he had injuries in both feet last year. One of them being plantar fasciitis, which I'm gonna venture to guess that's probably what's happening again here. It's one of those things that certainly can come back pretty easily. A man that size with that much weight and tight cleats, these are things that can happen. If that's the case, it comes down to pain management. Last year, we know that the pain management kept him out for a few games. It sucks because
when he played,
it wasn't great. You're right. It was not. I mean, he had 0 sacks last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this year, he's playing really good football. Even early in the year when he wasn't getting the sacks, he was a big contributor. In fact, I would argue that the reason that Drake Jackson has multiple sacks in week 1 was because of Arik Armstead flushing the quarterback directly to him. So Arik Armstead's had a very, very good year. How will this either hinder him if he does play? Does it hinder him? Maybe it's completely unrelated, but I think injuries in your feet, ankles, knees, especially when they have been there in the past, are always a little bit concerning on somebody who's 30 plus years old and that size.
Absolutely. He has a history of this. It's serious. It wiped out his year last year. I'm wondering if he's going to play in this game. And if he doesn't, what does that mean for this matchup? Like, we're looking at the Eagles having a bunch of injuries, and what about Fletcher Cox, and what about Lane Johnson? That's all true. But what about Arik Armstead? Let's say Armstead can't go. Then you would put, I'm thinking, Kinlaw in the starting lineup. So, I mean, all of a sudden, or maybe someone else, all of a sudden you're asking, can this team stop the run? I think part of the reason people might feel the Niners can stop the run, especially between the tackles, is Armstead. He's really tough to move. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's not forget that the 49ers just a couple years ago had him as a defensive end. As soon as they kicked him inside, it was an immediate difference. Now, there was a question of, okay, well, you're paying him defensive end money, and now he's a defensive tackle. Are you overpaying for him? All those questions. But one thing that I don't think was debatable was what position was he better at? Certainly, defensive tackle was a more fitting position for him. He's a very good run stopper, and the Eagles can run the ball very well. I think Arik Armstead being out, Fletcher Cox might be out for the Eagles. Arik Armstead, Fletcher Cox at this stage of their career, Arik Armstead is a much bigger miss than Fletcher Cox, especially because the Eagles have very, very good depth at the defensive tackle position. Milton, who played about 300 snaps this year, missed last week, might be better than Cox at this point. So Armstead missing would be a really, really big deal for the 49ers.
I just think it's kind of interesting how you learn about it. Like, Kyle Shanahan walks out to the podium like nothing's different. It's the same day. He goes, it's injuries for today. Jordan Mason, hamstring, won't practice. Ray McLeod, rib, won't practice. Arik Armstead, foot, won't practice. Spencer Burford, knee limited, and just like moves right on. And someone's like, well, blah, blah, blah. Is Arik Armstead's foot something similar to what he dealt with last year? And then Kyle's like real nonchalant, like, I'm not really sure exactly. I know it's his foot, but I'm not sure how similar it is. It's like, yeah, man, it's like, no, this is a huge freaking deal. Are you kidding me? Follow-up question. Are you kidding me?
He absolutely knows the extent of the injury. Of course, he's playing coy. It's really, and that the thing that sucks about this is because it came out of nowhere, we just have to kind of speculate and then really pay attention to the practice report over the next 2 days. This is what it comes down to. Does he practice at all in the next 2 days? If he's limited, we feel good about it. If he doesn't practice at all, you're probably thinking about he's not going to play. And then that's a really, really big deal, I think.
It is a big deal. I mean, down the stretch, these games matter. It's regular season seeding, but really most likely the Niners are going to be the 2 or the 3 seed. The meaning of these games down the stretch in a lot of ways is attrition. Like, how many players are you going to bring with you to the playoffs? It's football. And so far, the Niners have been really healthy. They lost a couple guys, got them back, but Talanoa Hufanga down. Arik Armstead, I don't know. How many guys are they going to end up losing before the playoffs? And they're an older team, and Armstead's an older player. This just seems like wear and tear. Although I don't know.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I hope that it's something completely unrelated to what he had, and he'll be fine. But you gotta wonder if it is related to last year's injury, and if so, how long does it linger? And not when I say linger, I'm not even talking about this year. Is this what's going to happen year after year now? Because this is the way that his body's responding. I don't know.
Good question. All right, let's get to the title of the show. Steve Young on Brock Purdy. Steve Young went on Dan Patrick's show, and Dan asked him what his thoughts were on the Niners' current quarterback. Good line of questioning. Steve Young, always thoughtful, always balanced, starts with something positive, very positive. He's so enthusiastic. And then in a very positive, enthusiastic way, he lays out the other side of it. It's not necessarily the negative side, but the side where the real side, the side where Purdy still has to prove himself, because Steve Young has the highest standards, top 10 quarterback all time. So do you want to sort of summarize it, or should I?
You go ahead and summarize it, and I'll give my opinions on it.
So he starts by saying that essentially Brock Purdy is like Luke Skywalker. He has the force. Forget what he looks like. Forget his skill set. NFL playing quarterback essentially is about processing quickly. And he can do it. He's 23. He can freaking do it. I don't know how. He's Luke Skywalker. You could call him Harry Potter, whatever. He's got Peter Pan. He's got magic powers that only he has. And it's hard. He said it's like, if people could spot the force, people like him wouldn't drop to the end of the draft. So the force is throwing with anticipation, seeing the field, making reads quickly. He does all that in elite level. Just being in the league for a long time doesn't necessarily teach you how to do it. It's almost like a God-given skill or a natural ability. Mm-hmm. He has it. So, Steve gave him that. He was saying basically the thing is he has to throw with anticipation because he doesn't have that big arm. A guy like Josh Allen can be late and muscle it in where Brock Purdy can't. And where Steve, in a very generous way, says, and now Brock's going to have to show that like this skill set can kind of work coming from behind. Because, it's one thing to like throw with anticipation when you're winning, but when you're losing, all of a sudden you have to make these throws in anticipation. You have to make these plays. And so that's where you've seen some of the turnovers. And what else did he say about big Brock Purdy?
He said that if a guy like CJ Stroud can go 3 for 3 to get a scoring drive in, Brock might have to go 5 for 5 to make that happen.
That's right.
So he has to play a little bit more perfect for a little bit longer because of some possible limitations to his game.
Yeah. And the final thing he says is if he wants to be considered elite, there are 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the NFL who are truly elite, who if you give them the ball at the end of the game when they're losing, they're going to win. Most likely. That's the way he put it. And he, in a very gracious way, said Brock hasn't proven that yet, which he hasn't. So that is the real measure of an elite quarterback. He says he has the force. He admits he doesn't have the most overwhelming skill set. And he admits that he has something to prove, which we all know he does. Coming from behind. That's the true measure of a great quarterback. And Steve said it's kind of like in the NBA where they're like 5 or 6 superstars who, if you give them the ball down the stretch, they're probably going to win the game.
Yeah, most certainly. I don't think Steve Young's saying anything that we haven't said or most people haven't thought.
It's validating, though.
It is, but it's funny because if Steve Young or Joe Montana say something that people agree with, everybody wants to like, see, he says this about this player, that means it's true. But the moment that they say something that might be construed as disparaging, people don't want to talk about it. Do you realize that thing or that interview came out on the 20th? No,
No.
if Steve Young came at and this is actually my point. If Steve Young had came out and said all good things on the 20th, everybody would have known about it. Everybody would have retweeted it. Everybody would have been like, I told you so, and all these other things. I don't think he said anything bad about Brock. I think he was real about Brock. And I actually think he's right in the sense that Brock, he calls it the Force and he describes it as like Luke Skywalker and whatever else. Really what he's saying is he has an it factor. And we all know what that means. He has an it factor. He has a swagger. He has a confidence.
I like the Force better than the it factor.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Force.
Well, the it factor, I guess, does also include meaning you can win if the game's on the line and your right arm can deliver time and time again. So he doesn't fully have that yet. Maybe he'll earn that. Maybe we'll see it this week. But he does have a confidence, a swagger, and a calmness to his game that a Jimmy Garoppolo, say, did not have. So I see that, but he is right. I mean, Brock Purdy says it himself. He does need to be a little bit more perfect than everybody else because he doesn't have the rocket arm. He can't be late. He has to be a perfect processor. And when he is perfect, oh my gosh, it's 30 plus points a game and the 49ers are rolling. And when it's not perfect, it can look really bad. And it's like, well, dude, what the hell was that throw? Really, he read something. He went with anticipation and the throw was maybe the wrong decision. Not necessarily a bad throw, but because he has to make the decision so early, it's just the wrong decision. And if you get caught in that, you can have a bad pick six or a couple bad picks at the end of a game like we saw against Minnesota or what have you. So I don't know. I don't think he said anything that I haven't already thought.
Sure. I guess if I were Brock Purdy and Steve Young said I had the Force, I'd be blushing. Like, I'd be so happy. It's such high praise coming from Steve Young. Yeah. I mean, doesn't mean he thinks that Brock's as good as he was, because Steve was more than just a processor. Steve was a hell of an athlete on a different level than Brock. Still, it's really high praise. And I like the way Steve can lay out the full picture. Joe Montana can't do that. No offense to Joe, but Steve is one of the best quarterback analysts in the NFL. Sometimes I don't understand what he's talking about, but maybe that's on me because he's really smart. But this time he laid it out in very plain terms. And yeah, it's nothing we hadn't said before, but it's nice when Steve Young lays it out. It's like, well, that's just what it is then, I guess, because I agree with it. So there you go.
Yeah, because I agree with it. So that's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is.
You know what? Here's one thing that I also find very interesting. Everybody has a bias, whether you want to or not, whether it's meant to be there or not. And when you hear these ex-professional quarterbacks talk about certain players, Brock Purdy, any quarterback, they always tend to lean towards the players that they identify with, players that remind them of themselves. Mm-hmm. Kurt Warner is a really good example of this. Kurt Warner, the way that he talks about Brock Purdy, you can tell that he identifies with Brock Purdy because, hey, I was kind of kicked out of the league. I wasn't supposed to be anything special. I had to fight for everything. And so he respects Brock Purdy for being able to do that. He knows how hard it is to do that, how hard it is to make a dent in the league when you weren't expected to be that guy. And so you can tell that he really genuinely likes Brock Purdy and enjoys Brock Purdy. And a lot of it is because he identifies with Brock Purdy's story because it's similar to his. So I think that a lot of quarterbacks, ex-players, quarterbacks, whatever, they gravitate towards players that remind them of themselves.
No question. Brother Bob, so does this make Hall of Fame Steve Young a hater? Yeah, is he a hater? We got to know. Ryan G. Hensley Show. What up, Ryan? Say one nice thing about each other.
We already did. We said we loved each other.
I said I like his style. I like his moves. I like his face. I like his smile. I like his general disposition. I feel all that very strongly. Don't complain. Adapt. Gives $20 to say, Grant, why are you almost always right? Steve Young has always been my favorite quarterback of all time. What?
The pause and like the glow in his eye when he read that was so over the top.
I mean, it's so funny because like when you go on Twitter, it's just like, Grant, like you don't know ball in so many words all day, every day. So don't complain, adapt. Be still my heart. Young has always been my favorite quarterback of all time. Hey, me too. And I love his weekly takes as well. Can you make weekly takes on his weekly takes? Grant and
Ooh,
Jesse, all the best. It's a great idea.
there you go.
It's
Do a
almost
video.
too
That's a
good of
video
an idea.
every week.
Thank you for giving me that great idea and the $20.
That 1999 actually turned into a lot more money for Grant. Good work.
One way to look at it. Thanks again. It's Nick for real. Says over under, we get a lead, then news around in third. Then news around in third. Screw around in third? I don't know. You're going to have to come back with me on that one. Jay Garza says, I'm more worried about Kyle in a big game than Brock. Inability to come from behind in the fourth predates Brock. Kyle not great when games go off script. That is true. It's crazy to think that Kyle's 0-37 when down by 8 or more in the fourth quarter, and the Eagles just came from behind down 10 in the fourth quarter last week. Not even a week ago. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other stat that's a little bit more interesting is like the 1 for 36 or whatever when it's a 3-point spread in the fourth quarter at any time in the fourth quarter. I think that one's interesting, especially. And again, people say, well, it's hard to come down from that many points, which I agree. But on the flip side, Kyle Shanahan has given up such leads of 10 points in big games multiple times. So that's not good either.
It's not good. Joshua Bourne says, worried about Brock in the rain. Love his competitiveness, though. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but first we're going to play what used to be the over-under game, but it's now the more than or less than game.
Yes, sir.
PrizePicks. So let's put up the banner so people know what it really do, if you feel me. Boom. And then the other banner so people really know what it do. Okay, let's get this going. PrizePicks, the more than or less than game. Starting with Christian McCaffrey. Got him already queued up, baby. Christian McCaffrey, 0.5 rushing touchdowns. This feels like easy money. I don't know. That being said, Eagles don't give up a lot of rushing touchdowns.
Eagles have a really good rushing defense, just in general. I'll go. I'm going to go less. I think he scores, but I think it's a reception.
Okay. Interesting. Let's disagree right off the bat. Are you writing this down?
I got you.
No.
The video's there. It lives forever. I can just go back and find
exists. All right, fine. I'm going McCaffrey more. Let's see what the people say. Hold on. Someone says I'm a sellout. Hell yeah. All right.
Hell yeah.
Next one. Deebo Samuel, 11.5 rush yards. More than or less than? 11.5.
More than.
Why?
I think, first of all, Deebo Samuel is the one that was the leader of the ish talking. He has to really have a good game. And Deebo is at his best when he's integrated in the offense in a multitude of different ways. He's going to play around the line of scrimmage anyways. I could see a situation where it may not even be a designed run. It's a screen pass that ends up being a backward pass, which is technically a run, and he breaks one. So I'm going to say more.
Okay, I like it. I agree. More. George Kittle, 46.5 receiving yards, more than, less than. Or as my dad would say, fewer than, which is grammatically correct.
More than, because the Eagles linebackers are pretty banged up. They're not that great to begin with. And I think that's the 49ers are going to win this game passing the ball. The Eagles have an atrocious passing defense. They have a very good run defense. The 49ers are going to have to win this game passing. And I think George Kittle's going to play very well also.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you on that. I feel like Ayuk is going to be guarded by Slay, and you're going to see the Niners go to Kittle a lot in the passing game. I want to get Purdy in here. Where's Purdy? Where you at, Purdy? Okay. Half an interception, more than or less than. Just to be a jerk.
I don't know if it's going to rain or not. I mean, that really does factor into my opinion. I'm going to say, based off the forecast now, it's supposed to rain up until about an hour before the game time, and then a light chance of rain over the next 4 hours. So I'm going to say less then. I'm going to say less.
Okay. I'm going to say more. Another one that we disagree on.
Ooh,
I think it's a
I
big
like it.
game. I think he's gonna be playing from behind. I think he's gonna be pressing a little bit. I think the kid with the force might force it a little bit. Oh, ho, ho.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we disagree on 2 so far. Next, AJ Brown, 73.5. 73.5 receiving yards. He faced the Niners in the NFC Championship game and put up a whopping 28.
I'm gonna
But the game was
say
over.
more. AJ Brown's
More.
a different beast than DK Metcalf. I still question whether this secondary can hold up, especially if the defensive line can't get home. Defensive line's going up against the best offensive line in football. I think Jalen Hurts a lot of the time is going to have plenty of time, and AJ Brown, I think, can get behind this defense for a big one.
Well, unless I think you're totally wrong.
Okay, I love it.
I don't know. I think Charvarius Ward's going to shadow him, and I think Charvarius Ward's going to hold his own. I think he's going to. I think AJ Brown's going to have 72 receiving yards in this game.
Sometimes it is like that, though. It's like
Yeah.
right up against it. Yeah,
Definitely. All right, last one. Jalen Hurts. Him too. Picks. Half a pick. More than or less than. What do you say?
more.
Yes, the numbers would suggest he's going to throw one, right? Or fumble.
Yeah, more.
Okay. So, hey, you want to play at home? Promo code Cohn, COHN. We got McCaffrey more on half a rush touchdown. Debo Samuel more than 11.5 rushing yards. This is what I have. George Kittle more than 46.5 receiving yards. Jalen Hurts more than a half a pick. AJ Brown way less than 3.5 receiving yards. I got him at 72, and then Brock Purdy at more than half an interception. Let's lock it in. Boom, boom, boom. PrizePicks again. 100% deposit match up to $100. So you deposit 100, they deposit 100. All if you use promo code Cohn, which can be hard to spell. It's COHN. Or you could use promo code Iggy. Either one. That's IGGY. Okay, back to the show. This is okay. So I keep going over my head. The Niners are now 3-point favorites, which to me is shocking. The Eagles are 10-1. The Eagles have beat the Chiefs. The Eagles have incredible wins. The Niners have beaten Dallas, who's beaten nobody. And they've beaten Jacksonville, which is, impressive. And the Steelers, which is great. I just thought everyone thought the Eagles were bad, and they're home. But the one thing that maybe people aren't putting enough weight into, or maybe I am putting too much weight into, is this extra 3 days. That's a big deal in football. It's not a normal matchup. Usually teams have the same amount of rest and time, not just rest, but time to prepare. And for an excellent coaching staff like the Niners, Kyle Shanahan, Chris Forster, Steve Wilkes, I don't know, how much of an advantage is this? How much of a difference will this make?
Yeah, I think it's a huge advantage for multiple different reasons. One, the preparation. They literally got to prepare for them right after the Seattle game and then watch them play to confirm some of the things that they already thought. The Eagles now have played 2 very tough games in a row against very good quarterbacks in wet conditions, had to come from behind in both those, which takes a lot of energy. And one of those, the very last one, went to overtime. That's a big deal also. So the rest thing comes into factor, although now Arik Armstead's injured. So you would think, all right, well, they can rest their bodies. They'd be a little bit healthier. I do think overall the 49ers are getting pretty healthy. We'll see what's going on with Arik. But yeah, I think from a rest standpoint, it's a big deal. I think from a preparation standpoint, it's a big deal. And I do agree, it's not getting talked about enough. There's always little things that go into games. One of the other little things that I look at in this one is the 49ers travel really well, Grant. And a lot of times, like when they showed up to Jacksonville, it was more 49er fans than Jacksonville fans. It was like 52% 49er fans.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles fans hold down their whole home stadium very well. In fact, 20% of the fans in the stadium in the NFC Championship were 49er fans. That is not normal. They're used to taking stadiums over. This week, it's projected to be around 28%. Either way, this is essentially the first real, true, volatile road environment that the 49ers have faced all year long. So I think little things like that always factor in. How will the noise play as far as the offense and communicating? How does the rest play? How do injuries play? How does weather play? There's so many little things that you don't necessarily talk about when you break down a game, but they all mean something.
Okay. I'm going to focus on preparation here. I always nitpick Kyle and give Kyle advice because I'm an expert. I'm a Hall of Fame quality control coach, and he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. But he is he's a good coach. And you give him 3 extra days. Like, let's just break it down. In a lot of ways, football is coordinator versus coordinator, game plan versus game plan. You got Kyle Shanahan versus Sean Desai. And, Sean Desai might be good, but his defense ranks like 19th, and it's his second year being a coordinator ever. And the first time he was a coordinator, he got fired after 1 year. And he's going against Kyle, and Kyle has 3 extra days. That's an advantage for Kyle. Then you got Steve Wilkes, who's a darn good coordinator himself, with 3 extra days going against Brian Johnson, who might be great, but he's also in his first year as a coordinator. It feels like a big advantage for the 49ers, just in terms of preparation and game planning.
Yeah, most certainly. I think on the same amount of preparation, I would give the 49ers a major edge in the coaching. So now you give them 3 extra days. Yeah, I think this game plan should be bulletproof, and they should be able to pivot if things don't go their way. If they don't, that would be concerning, knowing that they had the extra time to prepare. So, yeah, I think the preparation is a really big deal.
Yeah, I think this might be, if they didn't have 3 extra days to prepare, I doubt they'd be 3-point favorites. I don't know if it would be a pick'em game, but I think this is a big deal in my mind. And I'm picking the Eagles to win, but if the Niners win, I'm using this as an excuse right now. I'm telling you right now. Hey, they had time to prepare. And no, I didn't pick them to win the game, but I should have, and I almost did, and I thought about it.
Yeah, hindsight, I should have picked them, yeah.
Which kind of makes me right.
Ipso facto, I'm kind of your boss.
Yeah. It's Nick for real says over under we get a lead, then mess around in the third. Mess around.
Oh, mess around.
Not against. They were messing around in the third because they were up 21. And the Seahawks are truly terrible. Or I don't know. Not good. I don't think the Niners are gonna mess around. This is gonna be
Hamptonites.
I was talking to the coach today. He made a point that every time the Niners have had to play 60 minutes this year, they've lost. They're gonna have to play 60 minutes in this game. They're gonna have to be good in the fourth quarter. We'll see. Josh Bourne says
on paper, yeah, I think that would be the case.
Most likely.
I do actually think that there's a path here that the 49ers can run away with this. I really do.
There's always a path. There's always a path. A yellow brick road of sorts. Joshua Bourne, worried about Brock in the rain, loves competitiveness. Did we already get that? Sorry. 808 Niner says it's check cashing season, and CMC got a lot of checks. He got a cash for a lot of guys this week. Cabo Crew better show up, and I think Debo will.
Yeah, Debo. Okay. Debo definitely has something to play for. He better play against the Eagles the way that he normally plays against the Rams. I think it's turned into one of those situations, and I expect him to come through. I do.
Who has the advantage if it rains, Jesse? It was raining hard in that Eagles game last week.
Yeah.
Sheets of rain. Sheets.
I mean, with the 49ers, the way they run the ball, I think against a lot of teams would have an advantage in the rain. But against the Eagles, absolutely not. The Eagles have played in this type of weather for 2 weeks in a row now. Jalen Hurts played very well last week. He had, 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He can run the ball. They have a very good offensive line. They have a good running game with Swift. They just did it last week. The Eagles certainly do. And the other thing is, Jalen Hurts showed that he can throw the ball in the rain. And I actually watched a press conference from him today, and they asked him about the rain. Are you worried about it or whatever? He's like, well, yeah, I mean, ideally you want good weather, but I think if it rains, it's to our advantage, no matter who we play, because a lot of these teams play in warm weather. A lot of these teams play in domes. We don't have that luxury, and it's not ideal all the time, but I look at it as a positive, not a negative. I think it's an advantage that we can use to our favor. So he believes it's an advantage for the team as well. I definitely think that it's advantage Eagles if that's the case. But I also think that it's a really, really good opportunity for Brock Purdy to show that he can play well in the rain. I don't buy that he can't play well. His hands are not that small. His hands are actually bigger than Trey Lance's. He has decent size hands for a quarterback. So that is not the issue. He has played arguably his worst games or stretches in a game during rain. Cleveland game, it was wet, didn't play well. Seattle in the playoffs, the first quarter, it rained, he didn't play well. But I don't think that that is an indictment on who he's always going to be, but he definitely has to prove that he can do it. I do have that question, and I think this would be a really good opportunity for him and this team, this offense, to prove that they can stay on schedule, on time, and do the same things that they do in the rain versus out of the rain. So I think it's an opportunity.
I like your optimism and the way you look at it. Glass half full. It's just that we know the Eagles are experienced with this. They dealt with this last week. They came from behind in this and won in this kind of torrential downpour. So maybe it won't rain, but if it does, the Niners just don't have the exposure to it. Like they played in like a little bit of a drizzle in Cleveland, lost. It hasn't been raining that much out here. Funny enough, it rained this morning, but it didn't rain this afternoon. And we asked Kyle Shanahan, or someone asked Kyle Shanahan, were you kind of hoping that it would rain today in practice? You get a little prep. And he was like, no. Like, what do you mean, no? He's like, no, I don't want that. And then I asked him, are you going to practice with wet balls? And he was like, no. I was like, what do you mean, no? I didn't say that, but that's what I thought.
I heard the question and I thought the same thing. I'm like, why? It doesn't make any sense.
Remember 2 years ago when they lost to the Colts in the rain?
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he didn't use wet balls in practice. And then Carson Wentz, who it was like one of the final games he ever won or whatever, it was like, yeah, we use wet. I mean, the freaking Indianapolis Colts, who play in a dome, came out here and won in the rain because they actually thought to do that. And Kyle's like, not only does he not think to do it, he's thought to do it and has decided he doesn't want to do it, which is so strange.
He arrogantly is choosing not to do it, essentially, is what it comes across as.
I guess I should.
The 49ers, it's not even a Brock Purdy thing. What you're talking about has predated Brock. The 49ers offense has not done well historically in the rain. They just haven't. Jimmy Garoppolo lost multiple rain games that they shouldn't have lost. They lost to the Bears last year. Week 1 in a heavy rain game.
That's true.
We saw it this year against Cleveland, a game that they shouldn't have lost. It's not just a Brock Purdy thing. It is a 49ers offense thing, and it predated Brock. So you would think that he would prepare for it, I guess, but I don't know. But also, doesn't he not practice 2-minute drills and all those other things too, from what people are talking about? I don't know. I think there's a lot of weird situational things that could be an opportunity to practice, but he chooses not to for whatever reason. So we'll see how it plays.
I would never tell Kyle Shanahan what to do except when I'm quality control. And right now, as his quality control coach, Kyle, I strongly suggest you take a water bottle and douse those footballs with, H2O. Why not? What do you got to lose other than the game? You'll be fine. Darren Dangler says, is this rain game quarterback change part 2? If rain is a factor and Purdy struggles, does Kyle Shanahan give Sam some reps? Purdy still starter, but can Kyle Shanahan adjust? I don't think so, man.
I hope not.
I don't think
ever want to see Sam Darnold play football in a 49er uniform ever again.
When Sam Darnold gets on the field, they don't let him throw, which sort of, I think, is the real representation of the real indication of what Kyle Shanahan feels about Sam. If you really liked him, he might let him throw a little bit, but he doesn't. Amp to Carolina.
Go back one. You didn't read the last one.
Oh, dang. 126 Jack 3 says, watching JT Sullivan's breakdown of Hurts and notice the Eagles often have linemen downfield in RPOs. Tell Kyle to harp on the refs about it. Feels like the Eagles get a lot of leeway.
The Eagles are habitual line pushers. If Dre Greenlaw was a football team, it'd be the Eagles.
Yeah. Amp to Carolina Niner says, want us to win, but imagine the inflated ego afterwards. Doesn't take much for this team to start feeling themselves. Pause. Wouldn't be good for the inevitable playoff matchup. This is true. Like, the Niners beat the Cowboys and took a 3-week vacation before the bye week. They're like, oh, the bye week's in a month? Nah, let's just knock it off now. What if they beat the Eagles? It'd be terrible. It'd be the worst.
What if they lose to the Eagles, though? Wouldn't that be just as terrible?
No matter what happens is bad for the 49ers.
Just tie him.
Yeah. Santos Camacho III says, and no wet ball practice, Kyle. WTF you doing? What does that mean? I don't know.
What the F?
What the F? Official BNA Music 88 says the last time Desai coached against Kyle's offense was the 2021 Bears game where Debo saved Jimmy's job. That is true.
Mm.
I was at that
Did a
game.
pretty good job in that game.
I thought Jimmy was going down, and I wasn't rooting for it, but part of me kind of wanted
That
to see
was the
the end.
famous game where he said, "This is easy-ish. Can you handle it?"
You were there.
And it was picked up on the sideline. Remember?
That felt like a missed opportunity. It felt like Debo. It's all Debo's fault. Jamila 13 says Purdy better not get hurty. Kyle is stubborn and will call that same play. Don't believe me. Just watch. I believe you.
I don't think you will. There's
Kyle,
no
I dare you to
no
call that
way.
freaking play. I freaking dare you to call it, dude. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Madness Domenis says, should BP wear gloves for better grip on Sunday? Why not? I mean, have them in case.
I think,
Have them.
yeah, definitely have a Newman's leather glove ready to go, Peyton Manning style. But it all comes down to the quarterback. Some quarterbacks are comfortable with them, some are not. Again, it's not a hand size issue. It's really not. He just hasn't played well in the rain. So
It probably would cost the team $30 to get those gloves.
You can get them
Have
on
them.
Amazon for like
He can
$26.99.
put them in his pocket. Take them out. Put them on. Put one on, one off. He can make it look good. He can cut the fingertips off. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be so weird.
Cut
Cut the little knuckle holes out.
Madness to Menace. Should BP wear gloves? Oh, no, I got you already. Matt McEwen. Hey, guys. Love the name of the show. Keep up the good work. Hey, Matt, I didn't even DM him back, but this was Matt's idea. He DM'd me. He was like, hey, did you watch this? And I was like, let me not respond to you at all, but take the idea. Make it. Sorry. Thank you, Matt. Brother Bob says, Kyle said sweat makes the balls wet. He did. He did say that. He probably laughed. All right, moving on. This is a must-win game for the 49ers. They lose, they're 8-4.
Okay. It's not a must-win game in the sense of they're not going to make the playoffs. It's not a must-win game in even a psychological sense, I don't believe. When the 49ers played Dallas week 5, I said it was a must-win game for Dallas because, in my opinion, there's no way that team could be sent home 2 years in a row by the 49ers, then lose to the 49ers again and have any confidence in themselves going on the road to face the 49ers again. That was a must-win for Dallas psychologically. I actually don't think we're there with the 49ers and Eagles. The 49ers beat the Eagles just 2 years ago. They lost to them in the NFC Championship, but they did so without a quarterback. If they lose this game to a good team, I don't think that they're all of a sudden psychologically buried. However, I do think it's a must-win game from the standpoint that more important than anything is that number 1 seed and getting the bye week. The 49ers are on pace, if they don't get the number 1 seed, to have to go 12 straight weeks to get to the Super Bowl. That is not easy to do. This is a team that burned out essentially after 6-7 weeks. They're an aging team. That rest will be crucial. I think they can match up with anybody on the road. I don't think it's a skill thing. I don't think it's a undermanned thing. I think it's simply being rested and healthy. That bye week is huge. Even if they win, Grant, they're still 1 game behind. They essentially have to go undefeated and hope that the Eagles lose to somebody else just to get the number 1 seed. If they lose this game, there is 0% chance that they get the number 1 seed. 0% chance. It's over.
Oof.
That's it. So, yes, in that sense, it is a must-win game.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, it does seem like it would be a big psychological blow to have the 3 extra days to prepare and, no Fletcher Cox, potentially a banged up Eagles team that's coming off an overtime game where they played like 90-something snaps. So there's all these reasons the Niners are road favorites. Did you hear Kyle Shanahan talk about that today? Hold on, let me get the quote. It was really good.
I didn't.
He basically disagreed with it. Favorites. Hold on. Okay. Does it bother you at all that you guys are the favorites going into this game? They're the home team. They've lost 1 game, but you're the favorites. He says, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I don't really know how that stuff works. So I don't really know why. It's random. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He thinks they should be the underdog.
Well, I mean, they should be. I'm picking the 49ers to win, but they should be the underdog. They should be the underdog. They should. The Eagles,
they should be the underdog.
Just from a betting perspective, the Eagles are undefeated at home. Jalen Hurts is 26-3 over the last 2 seasons. Why would the 49ers be the favorite in that situation?
I'm drinking the water obnoxiously. Sorry, as you answer your question.
That's fine. That's totally fine. I love how you drink water obnoxiously. Is that good, Ryan? Does that work? So yes, they should be the underdog. I am picking them to win, but that doesn't those things don't
Not after
to me,
that
those things
display of
don't
confidence
contradict.
from Kyle Shanahan. We are clearly worse than this team. I don't understand why. I don't know, Kyle. I'm picking the Eagles, man. You picking the Eagles. I don't know. It's not a must-win game. Like, it'll be fine. Because it's like they beat the Rams twice in the regular season and lost to them in the playoffs. But 3 extra days, all that crap you talked. If Brock Purdy makes it through the game and you lose, I don't know. It's a tough one.
I encourage you, if you haven't done so, Grant, go check out the locker room interviews today from some of the Eagles players. I think that there's a lot of telling things that came out of those interviews. Bradbury got an interview. Who else was it? Graham got an interview. And they say the right things, but their facial expressions and some of the things they sneak in, I don't think they respect the 49ers at all. I don't think that they look at the 49ers as a threat. I think it's the wrong way to look at them, but I get the sense that they really don't take the 49ers seriously. That's my gut feeling.
Passing yards of Sam Howell. They might want to chill, but I don't know.
I agree with that. I agree, but they asked Bradbury about Debo's comments, and he just had a smirk on his face the whole time, like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about all those comments. And when Graham talked, they asked him, about the 49ers and what they do well. And he's like, yeah, they do a lot of things to try to trick your eyes. They're very gadgety, but we just got to line up and play football. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like you respect them. You basically are saying that like they're a fluff team that does a bunch of things to trick you, but if you have to play football, they can't compete. I don't know. That's just the way I took it.
Very gadgety. Huh.
It's interesting. Interesting listening to the two teams.
Are the ones doing the talking this year. It's like, it's a mistake. I don't think you should do it. It sounds like you just are feeling yourselves because you beat the Chiefs and the Bills, and now you're sort of like taking a deep breath while the Niners are seething. Do you listen to what the Niners are saying? I was in the locker room. Anytime they're asked about anything with the Eagles, they're like, it's fine. No, nothing. They're just a team. We're playing. They're a good team. We're ready to go. It's like, okay, this is like the Niners, the version of the Niners you don't want. Because the Niners are the team that's usually too arrogant, not really interested. It's like, okay, they're interested. You have their full attention. And do they have yours, or are you guys satisfied? Because if that's the case with 3 extra days, you're going to lose to the Niners at home. And you could probably say, the Eagles could say, it's okay. We still have 2 wins, 2 losses. We can still be the number 1 seed. But
like I said, I don't necessarily agree with the approach, but that's just the sense I get. Like I said, they say all the right things, but if you really pay attention, I feel like they're very arrogant. And really the Hassan Reddick one to me was, man, the actual player that ended Brock Purdy's season last year was the first one to shout, like, yeah, I did it. Come get me. Like, all right, man, here we go. Let's kick this week off right. I can't wait.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's not just any player on the Eagles talking.
It's very
crap.
Significant that it was him.
Is Reddick. It's like, man, he injured Purdy. And it's not his job to care, but it's like really rubbing it in. It's like, anyway.
It's like showing up at the scene of the crime, like, yeah, I did it. Who's going to arrest me? Okay, here we go.
It's exactly what it's like. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says Philly should have been taking this game serious as us. They lose this games. They have to go to Dallas this week. If they win, they clinch the 1 seed. Hey, well, maybe that's enough reason for them to be locked in. Just the ability to clinch it. Clinch. I like that word. Got to use it more in everyday life. Clinch. Plumbing God 42 says 49ers ego is what concerns me. Meanwhile, the Eagles are out for blood and want to beat the crap out of you no matter who they're playing. Eagles have an ego too. But
yes.
I mean,
it makes me wonder, Plumbing God 42, is there 41 other people that had that same name as you? That why you had to choose 42? Plumbing got that popular of a name. It's interesting. Why the 42? I
Matt
have to
McEwen says
know.
Niners D needs to jump when LJ moves, not the ball. It's true. If Lane Johnson's going to go early, then you can go early too. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, still unbeaten, says only 1% chance, Jesse. What?
Oh, if they lose to the Eagles, actually a 1% chance. Yeah. Maybe that's the real
Suzuki
percentage.
says Grant, tell Jesse about Diddy Reese. You don't know about Diddy Reese? You don't know about Diddy Reese. Okay. So at UCLA is in Westwood, which is a little neighborhood in LA.
Okay.
And Westwood is like, it looks nice, but there's not a whole lot there, really. Just a bunch of stuff that, well, they've changed since I was there 15 years ago, but like the one institution that's been there forever, right off campus, is Diddy Reese, and there's a line around the block, and it's ice cream sandwiches.
Oh,
ice cream sandwiches, and they make them for you right there. It's great, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you can get ice cream sandwiches anywhere, but
these
like
ones are special.
Oh my god! I mean, it's a lot though. How often are you in the mood for 2 cookies and ice cream at the same time? Like, ugh. That's like 1,000 calories of sugar to the dome.
My kids are ready for that at all times. Yeah, that's
absolutely. Cop 42 says, I bet the Eagles' game plan is to break Brock Purdy at all costs.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And if you say that, you get suspended for a year. I'm sure the Niners have similar feelings about Jalen Hurts. Brother Bob says, will Kyle be smart enough not to repeat the same stuff? I don't know. Also, the other side of the 3 extra days to prepare, don't overthink it, Kyle. Sometimes you do. LA Blue 49 says the NFL should flex this game for Sunday night. You hold your tongue.
It's too late. I agree. I agree. I said the same thing. The rule is they have to notify 12 days prior, so it's too late. And I guess, shout out to Jamal. You know Jamal. He and I were talking, and he told me that Fox and CBS, I guess they get to choose one game a week that's untouchable and can't be flexed. And they said, hey, you can't touch this game. So
Plumbing got 42 says the 42 is because that was my dad's football number and our favorite player is Ronnie Lott.
Nice. I like it. See, there's a good story behind it.
Matt McEwen says, Grant, why didn't you try to block Debo's shot?
But if you would have just swatted it like
in the face. No, but today, so I tried to be helpful. A ball was rolling toward me. Diamador Lenore and Brandon Ayuk were playing horse. And
those two are always going at it, man.
Yeah, I was watching. I wanted to see who was going to win. And like someone missed a shot and the ball kind of rolled toward me. So I wanted to be helpful. I picked it up and I passed it to Brandon Ayuk without really looking, kind of just a quick one-hop pass, but he already had a ball. And it kind of just hit him in the thigh. And he looked at me and I was like, sorry.
And
he looked away. That happened.
You tried to injure Brandon Ayuk. That's what I heard. Wow, man.
That's a real story. So if he has thigh bruise, something like that.
It's a thigh contusion from a little
Debo
Nerf
tried
ball.
to hit me, but I got Brandon Ayuk. But I didn't mean to. I was passing him the ball. He just had one already. It kind of hit his forearm. I wouldn't say hit. It grazed it.
I thought you were going to say something like he dropped it or something. He intentionally tried to catch it and dropped it. How weird would that have been?
Maybe it looked like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I was just trying to help. Sorry.
You should talk again about how Lenore is really slow or something.
Brandon Ayuk wasn't playing fair in that game of horse either. It was like he went under the basket and dunked without Lenore couldn't do that. That's not fair. Can you just do that?
Yeah.
Shoot.
It's called get an advantage any way you can. My dad used to beat me at pig with the crazy. I was too short to make certain shots, and he would do this stupid thing where he put his head directly under the hoop. His arm would go out to the side, and he would just drop it into the hoop. And I was like 7. My arm wasn't even long enough. I would just hit the rim every time, and he would laugh. It was hilarious to him. So there you go.
Yeah,
win by any means necessary.
Ayuk did a left-handed layup. Lenore hit that.
Ooh.
And I think they lost interest after like 5 minutes. I wanted to see. I was going to give the whole blow by blow of the game, but they just kind of stopped.
You could like taking notes.
I was like,
then you hit Ayuk, and it's like the record skipped.
All right, last topic. Niners are on a 3-game winning streak. Have we learned anything about them during it?
Yeah. So the reason I brought this up as a topic is shout out to Roscoe's. He asked me this question yesterday, and immediately I said, no, we haven't learned anything about this team.
Mhm.
He corrected me, and I agree with him. I think there is one thing that we learned, which is Steve Wilkes is a good defensive coordinator and probably the right one for this team. I think that that's probably fair to say when 8 of his 11 games have been pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, the questions I had about this team, Grant, still are unanswered. Them going and blowing teams out is not answering the questions that I want to know. It's not answering, can they come from behind? Can they win in tough environments? Can they win in inclement weather? Can they play a full game 60 minutes if they're forced to? All those questions are still unanswered. I think some of them can be answered this week circumstantially if those things fall into place, but blowing out teams is not a surprise to me. It's not, I mean, it's impressive to a certain extent, but it's kind of, you just get used to it, you know? They're going to have to win a tight game, Grant, in the playoffs when it matters. I would like them to be in that situation either against the Eagles or against the Ravens and show that they can win that type of game before they get there.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Young said that today. Most of these games are one-score games, and I know the Niners are really good, and they haven't had to encounter that yet, but it's coming. And then they're just not battle tested in that way. They've won games like that in the past, but this is a different team in a different season with a different quarterback and the same head coach and the same philosophy. So I don't know. That 0-37 in the fourth quarter, is that a real stat?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's actually 0-39 or something. I don't know. It's a lot. It's it's a high number.
That's a problem. It seems to me that the Eagles can win in a lot of ways and the Niners can win in one way. I'm not saying the Niners are better than the Eagles, but I am. So I mean, worse. What? Sorry.
Do you think that we've learned anything about this team in this win streak?
We've learned that they're better than the Seahawks.
Okay. We knew that.
I mean, what did we learn? We learned that Brandon Ayuk is the truth. Brandon Ayuk, just individual players, he's ascending. Like a month and a half ago, I was like, he's like a tier 2 wide receiver. Nope, tier 1. He's up there with, and he just needs more targets.
Yeah, because now he has the touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
3 weeks in
As
a
soon as
row.
Larry said something about that,
He was listening to the show. I love it.
Yeah, Kyle was. I don't know. Ambry Thomas, like he might be not bad. He might be good.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think that's going to be tested this week as well.
Yeah. Now he's going to be going up against. To me, again, they should be putting Shavarius Ward on AJ Brown, wherever, and then that means Ambry would probably be on Devontae Smith or De'Amon Little. Ambry faced him in college. 3 catches.
How do you do? Do you know?
3 catches.
3
50
catches?
yards, no touchdowns. That was like 4 years ago. Ish.
Interesting.
But
okay.
It happened.
Okay.
So that's 2 things we learned. Also, Mitch Wishnowsky.
Oh.
He has the force.
I actually realized this after game 1. When I was in Pittsburgh and I watched that game, Grant, just the pregame, I tweeted about it. This guy's incredible. The way he can control the football and do so many different things with it. It sounds so stupid, but every time I go to a game, I just watch him warm up. It's intriguing to me. He's that damn good.
He does like the knuckle punt.
Yeah.
The knuckle punt.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the best player in the team. Like if you gave out Madden ratings, he'd have to be a 99.
He's so good, dude. He's so good. So good.
Yeah.
Definitely worth that pick now, right?
It's like he's from, was it Australia or New Zealand? And I think his punts spin the other way.
Oh, like the toilet bowl goes
they spin the other way, and that's why they're harder to catch.
Maybe that's it. It's like a left-handed thrower. The ball tails out versus in to a receiver. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Plumbing got 42. Says we got that.
Yep, we got that one. Yep.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says they made us watch Minnesota versus Chicago on Monday night, but didn't schedule Philly versus SF on primetime. Egregious.
It is so bad.
They want you to watch the worst games possible with the worst quarterbacks possible.
Ugh.
That's what they want. It's the NFL. You know, Tom Brady was 100% right. And a lot of people were like, yeah, he can't say that. He said it. He was right. NFL's mediocre as hell.
Oh,
They should
yeah,
call
very,
the MFL.
very.
Mediocre. NFL equals Niners for life. No. Does Kyle run the same play Purdy got hurt?
Say it works.
Also, elite challenge incomplete passes by Devontae Smith. Man, Kyle, you got a lot to answer for. Was not your best game. Jay Garza, PG 42 is my son. I guess I need to add 42 to mine too. Biggest fans of you both. Keep up the great work, guys. Appreciate you guys.
Interesting. Nice. Little father.
Yes.
Okay. I bet you they enjoy the show they enjoy the most is you and your father. So
perhaps maybe it's this one. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a good one too. Matt McEwen says at least Jesse gives shout outs. JK LOL. Love you guys. I'm so sorry. Like he
sent it to me too.
He's like, oh, what? Like you didn't respond to my DM and you used it to okay, cool.
Yeah.
See how it is.
He sent it to me too, and I was like, I saw this last week, and nobody's made a big deal about it at all. Interesting.
It's all Matt's fault. Oscar Ladner says, would you rather be 1 seed and play 5 seed Cowboys or 2 seed and play 3 seed Lions?
The 1
doesn't
seed.
work that way.
1 seed because you're at home. So.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Official Beat Music 88 says to add about Wilkes, we learned how bad the front office is in Arizona to let him go and not build a team. Imagine if he had built a defense like this in Arizona and had a good quarterback with confidence. Carolina on the line. Yeah, I mean, he was a better coach than Matt Rule, Frank Reich, Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah. That's a good point. He's a way better coach than a lot of people who've replaced him.
It's the way it usually tends to be.
Kingsbury. Can we reminisce on that for a second? The Cliff Kingsbury experience?
No.
It's not worth it.
That's really bad. Actually, going back to the last question, it's about the bye week. I guess both teams would be at home in the scenario he laid out, but the bye week is that important to me.
Got it. Okay, 6:58. Getting out right at the buzzer. Thank you for watching, everyone. Jesse has the show starting in a minute and a half.
Behind Enemy Lines. Come check it out with an Eagles content creator. We're going to talk all about the game. See you there.
Yes.
Last Second Sports.
Go watch it. Go subscribe. Go like to his channel and mine as well. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow in the afternoon. Coach. See you guys.